Welcome to the Car, Sim and Race Driver Show, presented by Hugh Hattrick. Drive fast and try not to crash. Welcome to the Car, Sim and Race Driver Show with me, Hugh Hattrick, and my very special guest, Adam Croft. Good afternoon, Adam. It's great to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
Hi, Hugh. I'm good, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, very well, and extremely excited that you've come on the show, and we've got a proper, real sim track, as you can see in the background there, a proper sim centre. Tell us a bit about yourself and how you got into motorsport and how it all began.
Okay, so well, I guess my motorsport journey started as a kid, as most people's do, as an enthusiast, a fan. It was all stemmed from my dad's interest in it. Never really competed at junior level. It was always a bit of an ambition and a dream of mine. And then I think when I was late 20s, circumstances changed and offered me the opportunity to be able to go and get my race license and start doing some racing. So that's really where it started. It's only ever been at hobby level, at club level for myself, but obviously passionate about the sport as a fan and an enthusiast. And the fact I'm a competitor in it at any level is a big thing for me.
Yeah, and of course we happened to meet about 12 years ago actually at Silverstone when you were doing your racing license, and with my good friend Jonathan, and that's when was that your first real experience of getting your license and kind of getting into motor racing?
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to that, I'd obviously done track days and sort of karting with mates and things like that. But in terms of actually properly going racing, that was the first roll of the dice, really. And I don't think Silverstone run that course anymore, but at the time they did this 5-day race intensive course.
Yeah,
it was absolutely mega, and such a good way to have an introduction to motorsport. You obviously put through your paces in the classroom on the track, and at the end of the course you then get your license and you take part in your first 2 races. Great group of people, many of whom that I'm still friends with now. Some obviously everyone went off in their different directions. The big claim to fame from that course was that we had a young Kevin Magnussen with us. So 15-year-old Kevin Magnussen came on the course, followed by a big TV crew from.
Because his father was there as well, wasn't it? Jan Magnussen was there.
Jan Magnussen was there, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And obviously that was the start of his racing journey, and he was destined for big things, and his talent shone through, even at that age. So, but the rest of us, went on to slightly more humble racing careers, I suppose, but all doing our own thing in our own way. And as I say, 12 years on, I've still got a lot of friends and contacts from that course, and it was the thing that sort of put me into that world properly, and I've never looked back since.
Yeah. Oh, I was a spectator on that great event, and it was fantastic fun for me because they very kindly let me sit in on a lot of the classroom stuff that they were learning, and it was really fascinating. And then they'd go out onto the short circuit, and then they would go around every corner, and they'd get you to almost sit on the ground as if you're seeing it from a single-seater point of view, and how to take the best line. And it was really absolutely brilliant. And it was quite funny when you met people from different backgrounds as to how they'd got there. I think one chap was supposed to be working that weekend, and he had to phone in and pretend to be off sick so he could just make the racing that day, and all sorts of things, you know. And then of course we had Jan Magnussen in the top, and I remember playing ski electrics with him. At the end, they had the kind of the welcome area, they had the ski electrics bit, and he was really quick on that. But I thought they're all cheating. Doing all sorts of things to get the fastest time and all sorts of stuff. But it was a fantastic thing to watch, and just to see everybody have for the first go. I mean, I think I found one of the most nerve-wracking experiences was when you all did your practice start. Because you had to be very careful. Obviously, they got you ready. You had the 5-second boards, and I thought, even just making sure you're watching everything would be something else. And then you had to race to the first corner and not crash, and that was not go into anyone. And I thought, well, how are you going to do that when it's only one corner? It's going to be harder to brake and kind of more likely to crash into somebody. But no, it was great fun watching it, and then obviously seeing the 2 races after that as well. I think Jonathan did quite well. He finished 3rd in one. And I think 5th in another.
He did pretty well,
Yeah, he qualified well. Were you in his? I know there were 2 groups that weekend. I'm trying to remember if you were in that group or if you were in the.
I can't remember, to be honest with you. I think me and Jonathan might have been in the same group. Yeah. But yeah, the group was sort of split into 2 smaller groups for the duration of the week, and we were sort of doing, different driving skills and different car experiences, kind of in parallel, and then. Obviously joined up at the end for the racing.
So really from that point on to get to this phenomenal sim centre that you have there behind you, how did it all start? Because I mean, that must have been, what made you decide to go into the kind of simulator type business?
So again, it was all sort of quite circumstantial, really. I mean, I after doing that course at Silverstone in 2007, I went on to compete at club racing level, which I still do now, and was just getting more and more heavily involved in it, getting to know the scene and the industry a bit more. And my first introduction to simulators was when we had a race abroad. I think it was either Spa or Zandvoort, I can't remember which one it was. And a driver coach who I was working with at the time, very talented driver, a guy called Callum McLeod, who's currently racing in British GT now, and a Bentley Works driver. He suggested to me that we used the simulator to learn the track. So obviously we'd never been to those, to Spa or Zandvoort, whichever one it was. So he booked me in for a session at iZone, which at the time was the main sim centre in the country, based at Silverstone. And we went and spent a morning there and learnt the track with him coaching alongside. And that was probably my first introduction to simulators and my understanding of how much value it could give in terms of learning a new track and perfecting your skills. To be fair, that was a good few years ago now. And didn't really do anything properly in terms of sim work after that. I had the occasional trip to various sim centres. And then in the last couple of years, I got to thinking that in the north of England, where I'm based, that there was nothing like that type of facility in this area. And more and more people that I knew were using simulators as part of their race preparation, whether they were pro drivers or more sort of entry-level club drivers like myself. And I started exploring the opportunity around whether there would be interest and demand for a proper driver training simulator centre in the north of England. Not to sort of reinvent the wheel. It was very much looking at the sort of model that iZone have and that Base Performance have. Those 2 players very much dominate the market, both based at or near Silverstone. But you have drivers coming from Yorkshire or above that would be driving 3 hours down the motorway. It's a simulator, and that's a big commitment. And that's where I got to thinking that there was probably some potential for this in the north of England, to set up a proper commercial simulator centre.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds fascinating. Because to see, we saw your promotional video, which we'll attach at onto this video at the start and also at the end as well. I mean, you've got the detail. I mean, it reminded me of kind of going into a Formula One factory when I did the Renault tour a couple of years ago. You know, everything's there's loads of monitors everywhere and everything's recorded live, and you can speak to people as they're driving and all these kind of things. I mean, it really is. It's almost like a little kind of like a kind of pit crew kind of situation, and then you've got your car and your driver next door kind of thing. I mean, how do you find when people come along and have a go? Is it to help them try and improve their lap times, or do people come with different ambitions when they come into the site?
Yeah, so I mean, just to go back to your first point there, my aim right from the start with this was to set up a proper professional centre. You know, there are places around, and many teams themselves have their own sim set up in-house, but they don't necessarily use as a commercial venture, but that they use for their own driver training. But I thought if we're going to create something that's going to appeal to the driver market and also to wider markets as well, which I'm sure we'll come on to, then it needs to look the part. You know, it needs to be every bit as good as those guys that I've mentioned down at Silverstone that are leading the way. I should also mention at this point that obviously partnering with Ginetta, which is the route that I went down with this. I pitched the idea to Ginetta, and we have SimTrack is based at the Ginetta factory in Leeds. So in that respect, it has to look the part. It has to reflect the Ginetta brand. It's not solely for the use of Ginetta drivers, but being linked to Ginetta and that family, it has to look the part. So the kit that we've got is top of the range. The software that we use, the driver training tools that we use, the coaches that we employ to run the sessions is all first class. Sort of best that we can get on the market, basically. To answer your question about why people come to use us, I'd say it's twofold, really. You've got new drivers who maybe haven't raced at a lot of circuits previously, so they want to come and learn the tracks. You know, maybe people like myself, when I went on that Silverstone course 10, 12 years ago, you know, most of the tracks I then went to race the following year, I'd never been to. So as a way to learn new tracks before you go and spend thousands of pounds going testing, absolutely perfect. And then you get the more seasoned drivers, or the kind of pro level drivers, if you like, that are then using simulators to very much enhance their skills, get more seat time. You know, testing on track in real life is becoming ever more difficult to come by, more expensive to come by. And simulators, especially with the accuracy of the models of the cars on them, gives a very good alternative for drivers to refine their skills and practice certain areas that they want to try and work on.
Oh, it sounds really, really good, because as you say, it's expensive. Motorsport is never cheap. It's always you're going to have a good bit of money to be able to do it properly. And I think, as you say, I mean, I know that the value of the course that Jonathan did all those years ago, it was well into the thousands. But it was a phenomenal course and worth every penny, because to get your license properly and get the experience is absolutely vital. And obviously, having something like that as you have with SimTrack, do you find that you have a particular, obviously, being in charge of it, you can decide, I would like to have a go, and do you have, how do you find that you using the simulator yourself, how has it helped you in your driving career?
Well, ironically, this is probably one of my biggest bugbears of the whole thing. I get to use it very little. I sort of thought, what a great business to have. I'll have this top of the range simulator that I can access sort of 24/7 and really work on my own skills. The reality is, probably apart from 10-15 minute bursts here and there, I'm actually on it very little, because customers are on it. Our driver coaches are on it. Our test team are on it, developing cars to get the cars to be as accurate as they can be. So yes, obviously I get access to it and can use it before my own race weekends, which is brilliant for just getting your head into gear. It makes sure that when you turn up at the test day on the Friday, you hit the ground running. You're not spending half the day trying to reacquaint yourself to the track and to the car because you've done that learning in the simulator.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of me personally, I struggle to get on it as much as I would like to do. So I maybe need to diarise some time in the calendar to make sure I get my own preparation done properly.
But then that's a good sign. That's a sign to mind you that people are coming in and using your business, which is good, and using the Sim Centre, which is exactly what you want. That's fantastic. I mean, where do you see it going in the future of this kind of? Do you think, is there room to have more than one kind of Ginetta simulator in your kind of franchise or in your business, or would you eventually want to add other types of racing simulators into that?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, the world is our oyster on this one. It's in terms of proper driver training simulator centres, it's still quite a limited offering in terms of the companies that are out there doing it. I mentioned iZone and Base previously. There's a couple that are sort of more based down south, around the London region.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, you've still, if you separate out the esports and the gaming side of it, which is what I'm very specific about with our business. We're not on the gaming side of things. We are very much about using simulators for driver training purposes.
Yeah.
The availability of that type of resource is still fairly limited in this country. So you have still got drivers that are travelling a long way to go and use a proper sim centre. So in terms of developing the model, yes, there's an opportunity for additional centres, I think, around the country. We have to be wary of the fact that there is a finite market for this.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of race drivers in the country, but then if you start to segment it out in terms of those that have the budget to do additional stuff like sim work versus those that literally are on a shoestring budget and they're cobbling together every penny to put a new set of tyres on their car for a race weekend. We have to sort of be conscious of that marketplace and understand that there isn't an infinite number of drivers to go at. So that said, you're looking at any region of the country, and there's a lot of drivers. A lot of drivers from the north of England, lots of drivers from the Manchester side, from the Leeds side, from Scotland, down in the southwest, and there is scope for further development with this kind of thing, I believe.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just trying to think. I don't know if there's anything like that, like what you have in Scotland at all. But I know we have Knockhill, which is the main kind of race circuit in Fife, which is really the only kind of racing place really of that size of a proper kind of racetrack in Scotland. But I certainly think something like that up here would be great. We're actually hoping that we have an old track. You've probably heard of it, called Charter Hall. Where Jim Clark and Fangio and all sorts used to race away in the 50s and very, very early 60s. And we're hoping, I mean, it's a big ask, but we're trying to get a group together to raise the profile of Charter Hall, because at the moment it's really not really being used. They do have still the old runway and still bits of the old track, but we would love to make it into a proper track eventually, because we know that it's not just a matter of the motor racing side that comes along to that. It's all the infrastructure that comes with it. You then have your motor racing teams coming down, or the technology side accompanies that. And we think it would do a huge amount for the Scottish borders. It could completely revitalise the whole area. And I have the pipe dream that I can speak to Bernie Ecclestone and say, all we need is 300 million. We can get a proper Formula One track here. Because we're in a very quiet part of the country with good roads and good access, and it would be something to have some proper motorsport as well. We have a huge motorsport heritage up here in the Scottish borders. In fact, we have the Jim Clark Motorsport Museum that's just about to be reopened. They've completely rebuilt the whole place, and I think Dario Franchitti and David Coulthard and Jackie Stewart will be coming up in August for the reopening, and they're going to close the roads and have the old racing cars racing up Newtown Street, just outside the museum. They did it a couple of years ago for one of their kind of the anniversary meetings. But I'm sure that would be something you would be more than welcome to come up to, and it's a great event, and with some big celebrities there too. So
it sounds like it.
With your sim track signs in the back and
business cards, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's the kind of thing, it's a great motor racing heritage, and I think, you'd have a chance, you never know who you might meet at those kind of sessions, but it's quite a thing. I mean, I love sim racing for the side of the gaming as well, because it's great fun for somebody like myself who doesn't really have a budget to go motor racing, but can, plug it into your monitor at night time and have a go and these different things. I think it's great, and I think it does improve your driving. I mean, I used to be a driving instructor many, many years ago, and at the time it was for BSM, and they had a cardboard cutout of a Vauxhall Corsa, and you had to go in this, and you could do a sim session at the time for about £20 an hour, and you got to drive this old Corsa with a few big old television screens in front of you, but that was the thing. But even in the early 2000s, that was kind of beginning to happen, and I'm surprised that they haven't done more with that, or the government hasn't made the the driving test much more around the simulator experience to kind of get people ready for driving before they head out onto the main road. But I think the more people kind of practice with these kind of sim type equipment, it does make you a better driver. I think you can very easily learn how to control a car better. All these things are good skills to have, and what you're doing is you're training drivers to be better racing drivers, isn't it? Which is a great thing for the profession.
And you only have to look at the likes of the likes of Lando Norris and Max Verstappen in F1. I mean, Lando Norris is a fantastic example of someone who's been a big advocate of simulators. In his whole journey, right from when he started as a junior, right the way through the single-seater ladder. I mean, he actually started out in Ginettas in his car racing career, and he does huge amounts of time on the sim. I think there was some stat about before his debut at Melbourne. At the start of this season, he'd done something like 600 laps around the Albert Park track.
Wow.
On the simulator.
Which,
is massive, and you know how influential the guys in F1 are. So all the youngsters looking up to those people. And it's there's a real sort of a little bit of a sheep mentality in motor racing, and if one person starts doing something, everyone else does, and if they start to see the benefits that someone like Lando Norris has gained from using the sims for the purposes that he has, and then everyone starts doing it. I mean, we get a lot of juniors through our sim, lots of genetic juniors, because for them, obviously they've got restrictions around school and when they can get on track, and a lot of them will be coming out of karts into cars. So the simulator is brilliant for them because it helps them to learn about the car control. We can model their car absolutely perfectly on the sim, and they can then learn the tracks that they probably haven't yet raced at. So, particularly the junior market is the sort of karters going into cars, and the current juniors is a huge part of what we do.
Well, I think as well, I mean, for a lot of our viewers who'll be watching this, yes, many of them are on the gaming side, but they're followed from people who have maybe done, they've qualified for championships, like FIA championships from Gran Turismo. And I'm trying to remember the name of the chap. It was Jan. Oh, it's like mine. Marlborough, that's the one, yes. Because, of course, he won the GT championship, was it, in 2013, I think it was. And then he went on to race in, I think, was it Nissan and did back that. And I've seen him race in other series. I think now he's a professional racing driver. So I think for a lot of people see the sim driving as a real opportunity, that if they can show some talent in that, there's a potential to go somewhere with it.
Yeah. And, people are making careers now out of sim racing in itself, without even then taking to the track, they're making the careers out of sim racing. But as I say, that's an angle that I think other people and other companies cater for quite well. Very well, to be fair. It's not the market that we are pushing as much here. We want to take the existing race drivers and offer them a facility that gives them additional seat time, a chance to improve their skills, work on certain areas, learn new tracks in a safe, cost-effective environment that doesn't cost the earth. Let's be honest, a day in the sim is going to cost you a lot less. Even with coaching, a day in the sim is going to cost you a lot less than it does to take your car to the racetrack for the day. So, there's some real value in that.
You should speak to David Perel, who I interviewed a few months ago, because he's a GT championship driver in the Blancpain championship, and a very great guy to interview. And I met him at Silverstone about a month ago down at when it was there for the 3-hour endurance race. And he was saying when I interviewed him that now he reckons that actually you're better off doing sim racing or practice on a simulator than you are doing go-karting and things like that, because actually you get more, it's more effective training and that kind of thing. So it really is showing that where you are, obviously you're on a different scale, but it's still, you know, that is what the professionalism, that's where it's going, and how effective.
Especially in terms of the accuracy of the models of the cars that you can develop on the sim.
Yeah.
You know, we were doing some work last week with one of the top touring car teams. We had one of their drivers and their engineering team coming in SimTrack. You know, we've modelled their car as accurately as we can get it on the simulator, and the feedback from the driver is that it is absolutely bang on compared to the feel that he would expect from his race car. So once you start to get to that level, and you can then test things or implement different parts or settings on the sim before you then try it in real life, which is what a lot of the F1 teams are doing with their sim work.
Yeah,
it becomes a really powerful tool, because then you're not just generically getting in a sim and driving any car. You're driving the car that you race in real life. That's why when we have a junior in, we put them in the Ginetta Junior model on the sim. If we have a G55 Super Cup driver, they're driving the G55 sim model. You know, the touring car team, you know, a Caterham driver, whatever it may be, they're driving the car that's most accurate to the car that they race in real life.
No, it's fantastic. I mean, the detail is immense that you can have that kind of accuracy, and so people can jump in the car and think, actually, this is virtually the same as what I'm driving, you know, racing around a track, which is brilliant. So tell me, who have you had? What kind of famous celebrity, or well, they're all celebrities, but who's been your most famous visitor to SimTrack?
Well, I think in terms of highest profile generally, it would have to be Sir Chris Hoy. We were massively honoured to get Sir Chris Hoy to the opening of our business here, which was huge for us. I mean, obviously, since Chris gave up the cycling, he's done a lot in the racing world. He's done a lot of stuff with Ginetta. So the guys here at Ginetta have got good links with Chris Hoy. And when we launched the SimTrack business in February, end of January, February, we had a sort of VIP opening day, and we invited Sir Chris down for that. So he was our sort of guest of honour. That was mega, you know, to get him here as one of the first users of the sim. That was really special. We've also had Guy Smith here, who's the ex-Le Mans winner, ex-Bentley driver.
All right.
Based locally, you know, probably about an hour from where we are. And respected name and talent in the sport. So, you know, we're getting some big names here. I say, working with top touring car team at the moment. You know, with drivers who are household names. So yeah,
that's brilliant.
It all helps with the profile. You know, our bread and butter comes from the guys that are, you know, on their journey to being like those people. But to get those names in every now and again, you know, is a big tick in the box.
Oh, I'm sure you'll have a visit from Jonathan and my good self in a wee while when
proper VIPs.
Yes, oh, that would be lovely. I mean, it does look absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's I always love going around motor racing venues and seeing what it's like, because you just know everything is put into the detail and making it as good as it can be. And from watching that video this morning and seeing what you've got there, it does look absolutely brilliant. Just to give an idea, I mean, if somebody, say some of our viewers might be interested, maybe they might well be part-time racers or even looking to do some kind of club sport. There are kind of what kind of price range does, you know, SimTime start out at, or is it too specialist to kind of go into that? Or?
I mean, it does very much depend on what each individual driver wants. You know, some people will come in just for a one-off session. Others will book a block of time that they'll use over the course of a season. But to give you a ballpark figure, if you did a half day here with which would include your coaching with a professional driver coach, full data analysis, video review, data to take away with you. That would be in the region of £500 for a half day.
Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Obviously, if you're booking multiple sessions, if you booked 7 or 8 sessions to mirror your race season, for instance, then there's the rates obviously come down.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very, very good. I mean, I was thinking myself of, I'd like to get faster because I'm a total amateur when it comes to even gaming. I try and mark myself on the timesheet, for different things, but and on the games that I do. But to learn properly, for someone like myself who's never had doesn't have any kind of racing license or any race experience, but to come down as a complete beginner and then learn a track, that would be a huge thing for me. Because I think, well, I'm learning the lines properly. Braking, accelerating, all those kind of things that are crucial, and steering inputs and so on. And then to have somebody say, right, this is where you need to improve, or this is how you can adjust, and so on, would be massive.
That's the key point there, Hugh. Is we can all blat around in a sim, as much as you can on a track day or a test day. You can just go round and round in circles, hoping to make some improvements. But if you keep doing the same things over and over again, to know where the time gains are. So for us, it's as much about the added extras that we do as part of our sim service. So we're using top of the range technology in terms of the sim itself, but we use top driver coaches to make sure that they're getting the most out of the time on the sim. It's no good just coming up, turning up for 3 hours. I mean, you can do that, just play on the sim for 3 hours, but if you really want to improve and develop and to know where the lap time gains are, that's where you work with the coach and you go through the data exactly as you would do at the track to work on your skills in that respect.
Yeah, no, that would be an amazing thing, because I know for a lot of people, they see the top guys and they think, how are they managing to get 5 seconds quicker or 3 seconds quicker a lap? And they'll talk about trail braking and your entry points to this and the braking points to that, and you're like, well, that's all just it's a jargon. You need to kind of know and find out yourself how it actually works and what they actually do. And your obviously your facilities can help get top tuition.
We see in terms of driver. Sort of driving traits or techniques, we see exactly the same stuff happening in the sim as happens in real life. So if a driver has a particular style that they drive a race car in real life, they tend to do the same in the sim. And that's a great opportunity then for the driver to work with our coaches to refine those techniques. If it's something that isn't quite right, that they can really work on that and perfect the technique, and the more they then drive the sim like the race car, the more feedback they get from it and the more value they get from the sessions. So it is directly applicable to real life and how they can improve their driving on the track. It's fascinating, and it's brilliant. And I think from what we've had today, I think people will see exactly where they are in their own kind of race career or what they would like to do. And as you say, we'll get your video before and at the end as well attached to this, so people can see exactly what the facilities are like and what kind of what they can expect when they come to visit you. It's been an absolute pleasure, Adam, to interview you today and to see what your facilities are like and your motorsport heritage and all these things that go with it. And hopefully we can get regular updates with you as to who definitely.
Who's been coming in. I was going to say, obviously you were saying that Jamie Chadwick, because she was she was in Ginettas before she went to Formula W.
She was, yeah.
So she might be the kind of client as well that would be coming on to your kind of track there, or your facilities there.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, for us, any driver of any level is welcome at SimTrack. As I say, the ones that will get the real value from it are those that are properly looking to progress in this sport and to make a career out of it. So the juniors and upwards. But yeah, I mean, someone like Jamie Chadwick, any of these juniors that have then gone on to race at higher levels, will have used simulators a lot. They'll have been to ISA and they'll have been to base. If they're local to us, hopefully they'll be coming to us. But all those guys and girls are the sort of key clients for us. The other angle that I perhaps should have mentioned is the corporate side of things as well. So whilst we are first and foremost a driver training simulator facility, we also run corporate events for local businesses. So if that's businesses looking to entertain their clients or to reward their staff or have a bit of a team building exercise, then we do corporate events here where these guys can sample technology and equipment that top level racing drivers are using, and they get to, we can put a Formula One car on the sim. They can have a blast around Monaco or Spa or Silverstone, and it's a great experience for them. You have a bit of a fastest lap shootout, and it's a great place to host them. It's part, we're part of the Ginetta factory, so there's a great factory tour that we include in that. And it's just it's a corporate day with a difference. So
oh well, you'll need to give us information for that, and we'll make sure that we put it onto the video too, so we can see, everyone watching can get a really good feel. I mean, I think it'd be epic having that. I can imagine when I used to work in a call center many years ago, that would have been the best thing ever, to come along and see who can do the fastest lap, and hopefully you can beat your boss. That's the kind of
exactly. Yeah, sort of building up that that competitive element to it, and you'd be surprised then the number of people that perhaps will do a corporate day with us here at SimTrack and then look at doing something, going like doing a corporate track day then, or spending a day with Ginetta up at Blyton Park. There's all sorts of stuff that it leads on to, because people get a taste for it. As you saw the group of 12 or 15 of us that were on that course at Silverstone, and once the bug's got you, it's fully in there. It's difficult to shake it. So.
Yeah. Oh, my one. I always remember when I arrived at that bit at Silverstone, and I was working for a car hire company, and I had an old Fiesta van. That's all they could give me to go on this run, and I had driven all the way, and I didn't realise that. I mean, this is I'd driven from Edinburgh to Silverstone in one go, pretty much, so about 350 miles, and I didn't realise that my rear tyre was slightly flat. And I thought, it's just a wee bit, it'll be fine, I'll go down there. And when I got there, Jonathan had told them that I was coming. So one of the marshals or one of the staff had looked out for me, and he came to my car, and of course I hadn't even noticed at the back that anything was wrong. And he got his tyre pressure gauge out, and he says, "Have you driven all the way from Scotland on a tyre that's flat?" And I said, "Yeah, I never stopped. I had a full tank of fuel, and it was at 7 psi." For the whole way, so I don't know how I managed it, but I got down there and I hadn't noticed. So maybe the car was that bad that it was. I thought that was normal for an old Fiesta van, But that was the thing. But that was, so they were all kind of amazed that I made it. But no, it was such a good event, and motor racing is just so exciting, and it's so unique for everyone, isn't it, to have a chance to go out there and race and do well. But look, I wish you all the best for the business and for your own racing career as well. And it's been an absolute pleasure. And as I say, I'd love to do regular updates with you. It would be fantastic to see how it's all going and how things develop. That would be absolutely brilliant. If I can persuade my wife, I'll definitely be able to come down and visit. And
pay us a visit. But no, thank you very much, Hugh, for having us on the show. Be more than happy to do a regular slot where we can update you on how things are going, and particular events that we might be having on, for instance.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be super.
Say any sort of VIPs that we get through the door. So that'd be great. Fantastic opportunity for us to talk about the business. So appreciate you letting us on the show.
Oh, you're very welcome. Well, you've been listening and watching to the Car, Sim and Race Driver Show with me, Hugh Hattrick, and my very special guest, Adam Croft from simtrack.co.uk.
Thank you very much, Hugh. Cheers.